Sometimes the choice that seems right, is it really yours? Right now, you might be on a path that someone else has paved for you. By the end of this video, you will understand what it looks like when you finally start choosing yourself. There is a difference between who you try to appear to be and who you actually are. And that difference doesn't manifest in the big turns of life. It accumulates in the little things. In how you answer the question, "How are you?" In whether you agree to a meeting you don't want to attend. In whether you postpone again what truly matters to you. Each of these moments is not just a choice. It is either a step toward yourself or a step away from yourself. And until you learn to distinguish between these two directions, you can be incredibly busy and at the same time, completely lost. Understanding where exactly you went off track is not as hard as it seems. Next, we will figure out how this works and what to do about it. Most people think that being yourself is something grand, like you need to quit your job, move away, or radically change your life. But the truth is, you become yourself not in a moment of a big decision, but in hundreds of small choices you make every day, often without even noticing them. We live in a world where noise has become the norm. Other people's expectations, other people's pace, other people's priorities. All of this gradually drowns out that inner voice that knows exactly what is important for you. And the longer you don't hear it, the more energy you waste on a life that is formally yours, but feels not quite so. This is not weakness or a crisis. It's just the result of you orienting yourself too long based on external signals instead of internal ones. Here's a thesis to keep in mind throughout the video. Your identity is not what you think of yourself, but what you choose day after day. It is built not from words, but from actions, not from intentions, but from habitual choices. In the main part, we will explore how small decisions shape or destroy your sense of self, and why intuition often says one thing while reason does another. After that, we'll move on to practice, where you'll receive a clear scheme on how to start choosing yourself right today, without loud changes and without self-pity. And finally, one specific step you can take right now. In these few minutes, you will likely understand where exactly the discrepancy has accumulated between who you are and how you live. And it will not be an unpleasant revelation. It will be a point from which you can already begin to move in the right direction. But for now, one question that will help sharpen your focus. Remember the last moment when you made a choice and immediately felt that it was truly yours? Not because you had to, but because it was right for you. When was that? Write in the comments. It's precisely these moments from your experience that help us understand which topics to explore next. There is a problem in precision mechanics called calibration drift. The device works, the readings look fine, but every day it subtly shifts a fraction of a degree from the standard. After a month, it still works. After a year, its readings have nothing to do with reality. And the most insidious thing is, it does not break. It just gradually becomes a device that measures something else. The same happens with identity. You do not lose yourself in the moment of a major failure or a loud crisis. You lose yourself through hundreds of small shifts, each appearing as a reasonable compromise. You agreed to a meeting just to avoid explaining the refusal. You chose the familiar option simply because it requires no effort. You remained silent because it is inconvenient to speak right now. Each of these decisions is not a catastrophe on its own, but together they form a person who lives in the path of least resistance and calls it their life. Here is what is important to understand about mechanics. The brain perceives repeated choices as a signal of who you are, not what you say about yourself, but what you do again and again. If you systematically choose someone else's comfort at the expense of your own, the brain registers this as your identity, not as a sacrifice, not as a temporary strategy, as you. And after some time, it becomes genuinely unclear. Did you decide this? Or has it just become a habit? A typical mistake here is to confuse the familiar with the appropriate. When the choice is familiar, it does not provoke resistance. It does not require energy. It does not create anxiety. And this feeling of ease can easily be mistaken for a sign that the choice is right. But the ease of the familiar and the correctness of your own are different things. The familiar can be completely alien to you, just well integrated. A simple scale helps to check this. Familiar versus your own. Not convenient or inconvenient, but does it reflect what is important to me or just what I am used to? This is a short question, but it works as a filter, because most choices that lead us away from ourselves come precisely under the flag of, well, it's logical, or, well, it's easier. Now, a turn that changes the angle. Most people think of intuition as something vague and unreliable, that you need to think everything through first and then make a well-balanced decision. But research on decision-making shows otherwise. The intuitive reaction to a choice arises before the mind can articulate it. It appears as a bodily signal, a slight tightening in the chest with one option, a small expansion with another, a microscopic acceleration or deceleration of breath. This is not mysticism. This is the speed of information processing. The body reacts to the mismatch faster than the mind can come up with an explanation. The problem is not that intuition is silent. The problem is that the mind kicks in after a fraction of a second and starts producing explanations, convincing, socially acceptable, logically sounding. Now is not the best moment. I need to think more. It's reasonable to agree. And the initial signal gets buried under a layer of rationalization. You do not feel like you have suppressed something important. You feel like you have made an adult decision. Inside, this sounds about like this. Someone offers you a project, role, or request, and in the first half second, you already know the answer. It appears not in words, but as a feeling. But then the mind kicks in. What if they get offended? What if I miss something important? I should be flexible. And by the time you vocalize your answer, the initial signal has already been overridden. You think you are choosing. In reality, you are just rationalizing. This does not mean that the mind is the enemy. The mind is needed for analyzing consequences, for planning, for maintaining context. But it is a poor advisor on the question of, is this mine or not? Because it operates in terms of advantage, disadvantage. Will they approve? Will they not approve? Safe, risky. And the question of your own is a question of a different level. It precedes the mind. The model that helps to untangle this, let's call it the first reaction test. Not what you decided in the end, but what you felt in the first seconds. This does not mean always acting on the first impulse, but it means not ignoring it as irrelevant. It is relevant. It is often more accurate than all subsequent reasoning. When you start noticing this first signal and stop automatically overriding it, something changes. Not loudly and not immediately, but decisions begin to feel different. Not like compromises, but like yours. And accumulating, these decisions form not just other habits, they form a different sense of who you are. Right now, without postponing until tomorrow, recall any decision that awaits you today. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. A meeting that you were asked to confirm, a task that you keep putting off, an answer that you haven't written yet. Remember, and catch what you felt in the first half second when you just thought about it. Not what you decided, but what was there before the decision. This is the entry point. An ordinary day with this practice looks not like a set of rituals, but like a series of micro-checks. A colleague writes asking you to take on another piece of work, and you notice that the first reaction was a slight contraction, not readiness. But after a second, your brain starts to explain why agreeing is reasonable. The practice here is not to refuse, but to not miss that first signal, to make it visible to yourself before it gets buried under layers of explanations. The same applies in the moment when you choose what to do in the evening. There's what you should do, and there's what feels a little warmer inside in the first second. It's not necessary to choose the second every time, but it's worth noticing the difference at least. Because a person who systematically fails to notice this difference eventually discovers that they've been living only in should mode for a long time. There's another situation where this is especially important, the moment after a strong emotion. Anger, resentment, confusion, all of this creates pressure on choice. In such a state, the brain seeks relief, not accuracy. And choices made at this moment often reflect not you, but a reaction to the pressure. If you've learned to at least slow down this transition from emotion to decision, you're already acting more accurately. In the end, the practice is the same, but it works everywhere. Catch the first reaction before your mind starts explaining it. Not always act on it, but always notice it. It is this pause between the signal and the decision, the place where you either choose yourself or drift away again. To be yourself is not the result of one big decision. It is what happens in the space between the impulse and the response, between the first signal and what you say aloud. Most people live this interval on autopilot, and that is where the discrepancy between who you are and how you live accumulates. Identity is not declared. It is formed by what you choose again and again, in ordinary situations, without an audience, without ceremonial moments. Habitual choice and your choice are not the same, and the ability to distinguish them is a skill that is developed not in a day, but begins at one particular moment. There is something that is rarely said in such videos. You will not find yourself through analysis. You cannot think your way to who you are. It is revealed only through action, through the choices you make when no one is watching and nothing is required. It is in such moments that your true value system either manifests or retreats into the shadows. Tomorrow morning, you will have a few such moments. You know it. The only question is whether you will notice them or once again pass by on autopilot. Now you know where to look. If this video was helpful to you, subscribe and like it so you won't miss the next episode.